Question number 6. A student makes a serious allegation against a teacher. The teacher denies everything. What is your first action? My first action is not to decide who is telling the truth. My first action is to ensure the child's immediate safety and follow the school's child protection and safeguarding procedures. Then I would ensure the matter is handled confidently and reported, escalated according to the applicable policy of the school and legal requirements. I would not conduct a casual investigation in front of other teachers. I would not confront the teacher emotionally. And I also would never pressure the child to repeat the allegation unnecessarily. This is an area where a principal must understand the difference between investigation, confidentiality, and due process. The principal's role is to protect the child, preserve the integrity of the process, and ensure that the matter is handled by the appropriate people under the applicable rules in a safeguarding matter. Assumptions can be dangerous, very dangerous. Procedure matters, documentation matters, confidentiality matters, and most importantly, the child's safety comes first. Question number 7. The owner asks you to remove a teacher immediately, but you believe due process is required. What will you do? I would never turn this into a confrontation between myself and the owner. I would say, I understand the seriousness of the concern. Let me put the facts, documentation, and applicable process in front of you so that we can take the right decision. Then I would explain what has happened. What evidence do we have? What policy applies? What action has already been taken? What process is required? And what are the risks of taking immediate action without following the required procedure? The principal is not there simply to execute every instruction. A principal is also expected to advise management. If the decision is difficult, my job is to make sure management makes it with full information. I can disagree professionally, however, I can advise firmly, but I must remain respectful and solution oriented. Question number 8. Your board results are falling, parents are complaining, and teachers are blaming each other. Where do you start? I would not start by calling a staff meeting and asking who is responsible. That will create defensiveness. I would start with data, subject wise performance, class wise performance, student attendance, assessment results, syllabus completion, previous year comparisons, teacher wise patterns where appropriate, and most importantly, students who are at risk. Then I would identify where the actual gap is. Is it teaching, attendance, assessment, student preparedness, curriculum coverage, parental support, or a combination? Once I know the gap, I can create an intervention plan and I would track that plan regularly. A principal should never say, we are working very hard, hopefully the results will improve. Instead, here is the gap. Here is the intervention. Here is who owns it. Here is the timeline. Here is how we will measure improvement. That's leadership. Question number 9. A media person arrives at the school asking questions about a student incident. Whatever. What will you do? This is where a principal must remain calm. I would not start explaining the entire incident. I would not speculate. I would not disclose confidential student information. I would follow the school's communication protocol, if in case you have, and immediately inform the authorized management or communication representative. If I am the authorized spokesperson, I would communicate only verified facts that I am permitted to share. If I'm not the authorized spokesperson, I would respectfully say the school will respond through the appropriate authorized channel. Because when emotions are high, one careless statement can create a much bigger problem. Facts first, protocol first, student privacy first. A principal does not need to win the media conversation. Not at all. The principal needs to protect the child, the school, and the integrity of the process. Question number 10. Your academic coordinator is technically excellent but cannot manage the team. What will you do? This is a very common leadership problem. Being academically strong does not automatically make someone a good leader. I would first identify the exact gap. Is it communication, delegation, conflict management, follow up, decision making, emotional intelligence? Then I would give the coordinator specific expectations and support. I might coach them myself, provide leadership training, or give them structured feedback. But I would also define measurable expectations. For example, are meetings happening effectively? Are academic trackers updated? Are teachers receiving feedback? Are deadlines being met or followed? Are issues being escalated appropriately? If the person improves, excellent. If the problem continues despite support, then I have to address the performance issue. Because a good principal doesn't simply promote good teachers into leadership roles and hope that they will figure it out. No, leadership has to be developed. Question number 11. A teacher publicly challenges your decision in front of staff. What will you do? My first rule is don't react emotionally in front of everyone. If the challenge is legitimate, I should be able to hear it. If the teacher says, "Ma'am, I don't agree with this decision because whatever," I can say that's a valid point. Let's discuss after the meeting. But if the teacher is deliberately undermining your authority, that needs a separate conversation. I would meet privately. I would ask, help me understand what happened. Then I would distinguish between disagreement and disrespect. Teachers must be allowed to disagree professionally, but no one should be allowed to damage the functioning of the school. A principal who cannot tolerate disagreement becomes authoritarian. A principal who tolerates disrespect loses authority. The balance is professional disagreement with professional behavior. Question number 12. You discover that a school SOP is not being followed, even though everyone signed it, right? What will you do? I would first ask, why isn't it being followed? Is the SOP impractical? Is it too complicated? Was training provided? Is there monitoring? Are people simply ignoring it? Because documentation alone doesn't create a system, implementation does. So I would identify the gap. If the SOP itself is flawed, improve it. If people don't understand it, train them. If resources are missing, provide them. If the system is reasonable but people are deliberately ignoring it, then accountability must follow. And I would create a monitoring mechanism, because an SOP sitting in a file is not a system. An SOP becomes a system only when people consistently follow it. Question number 13. A parent demands special treatment for their child because the family is influential. This is a test of integrity. I would listen respectfully, but I would apply the same principle I would apply to every other child. If the child has a genuine academic, behavioral, or emotional need, we should support that child. But support must come from need, not influence. I would never allow an influential parent to receive something that compromises fairness, safety, or school policy. Because the moment teachers realize that rules apply differently to powerful families, you have damaged the culture of the school. A principal must protect the school from that. Fairness must be visible, not just claimed. Question number 14. Your staff is exhausted, but the academic calendar gives you no flexibility. How will you maintain performance? Now, this is where leadership becomes practical. I cannot simply say, work harder, exams are coming. I would identify what is genuinely essential and what can be postponed. I would review workload, remove unnecessary meetings, reduce duplicate reporting, and prioritize academic tasks. Distribute responsibilities fairly, use coordinators effectively, and communicate clearly. Sometimes teachers aren't exhausted because they have too much important work. They are exhausted because they have too much unnecessary work. So I would ask, what can we stop? What can we simplify? And what can we delegate? What must remain? And I would monitor staff well being without compromising academic standards. Because burnout doesn't create better results, focused teams do. And last question, number 15. You join a new school and discover that the culture is much worse than you were told during the interview. What will you do in the first 30 days? I would not arrive on day one and start changing everything. That is one of the biggest mistakes a new principal can make. My first 30 days would be about listening, observing, and diagnosing. I would meet key members of staff, understand the academic system, review policies, look at student data, look at parent complaints, understand staff turnover, review compliance, observe classrooms, understand management expectations, and identify the biggest operational and cultural gaps. Right? Then I would classify them. What requires immediate intervention? What needs 30-day action, what needs 90-day plan, and what needs long-term cultural change. I would also identify few quick wins because people need to see that change is possible. But I would never promise everything will change in 30 days. Culture doesn't change because a new principle arrives. Culture changes when behavior, system, and accountability change consistently. And now I want to give you from my end one question. This is perhaps the most important question in this entire round. You have 15 problems in front of you. How do you decide what to solve first? So, my answer would be I don't solve the loudest problem first. I prioritize according to risk and impact. First is student safety and safeguarding. Second is legal and statutory compliance. Third is issues that can significantly affect students or the functioning of the school. Then operational and performance issues. And finally, longer term improvement work. Once priorities are clear, I stabilize the immediate situation, then I gather facts, assign responsibility, set timelines, monitor progress, and communicate appropriately. Because a principal cannot personally solve every problem, but a principal must ensure that every important problem has an owner, a plan, and a follow up. That's the difference between firefighting and leadership. So, with this, it's end of the round 6 of the principal interview. series. And if you have been watching all 6 rounds, you will notice something. We started with who are you as a leader? Then we moved into do you understand NEP 2020 and CBSE? Then can you handle a crisis? Then can you understand finance, admissions, and management expectations? Then it was can you lead, develop, and retain teachers? And now can you think under pressure and make the right decision? When there is no perfect answer, even then. That is what a principal interview really testing. Not whether you can give a beautiful definition of leadership, but whether when something goes wrong at 9:15 in the morning, you can remain calm, establish the facts, prioritize the risk, and communicate properly and take responsibility. And please remember, don't memorize these answers. Use the framework, bring your own experience, because the panel is not looking for a candidate who sounds like a AI. They are looking for a principal who sounds like someone who has actually run a school. And if you have the experience, don't hide it behind textbook language. Tell them what you would actually do. If this series has helped you, comment round 7, and I'll be back with the next episode, next video. Thank you for watching. Take care.